In this section, we'll look at how the fascists advanced from 1933 until 1937. Certainly, Hitler grew in popularity as he put Germans back to work and helped lessen the misery of the Great Depression. One of Hitler's favorite public works programs was the construction of the Autobahn, a limited access highway system without stops. By 1936, over 130,000 workers were directly employed in construction, as well as an additional 270,000 people in the supply chain for the construction of materials. After World War II, the Autobahn was one inspiration for the American interstate highway system. Working to stimulate the economy, Hitler encouraged the production of a new basic car for the average German, one capable of transporting 2 adults and 3 children at a whopping 60 miles an hour. The car was called Volkswagen, or People's Car. By 1938, the government was supporting production of the car with the famous Beetle design known today. In this picture, Hitler is shown that the engine was in the rear. Only a limited number were sold before the war effectively shut down production. In late 1934, Italy sought to reassert its authority in its old colonial interest Ethiopia, in the Horn of East Africa. The result was a war that lasted from 1935 to 1936 and ended with Italy's ultimate victory. While Ethiopia had a large army, it was ill-equipped against the more modern Italian troops. Ethiopia's emperor, Haile Selassie, pled for help from the League of Nations, but the international organization couldn't raise an army and did nothing. The victory greatly increased Mussolini's popularity in Italy, and ensured pretty much additional Italian aggression in North Africa. As Hitler's popularity grew, he began to crack down on the Jewish race in Germany. In September 1935, he got the Reichstag to pass the so-called Nuremberg Laws. The laws forbade intermarriage between Jews and Germans and defined only German blood as German citizens. Jews were now regarded as state subjects without citizenship rights. The Nuremberg Laws, got really severe limits on Jewish employment, including loans to Jews. It included bans on Jews in government and in education, in fact, in most professions. Many Jews wanted to immigrate, but the Nuremberg Laws required a 90% tax on their estate just to leave. And in many countries, including the United States, these countries restricted Jewish immigration. You might recall the National Origins Act of 1924. People convicted of violating the Nuremberg Laws, meanwhile, were arrested by the state police, known as the Gestapo, and sent to detainment and work camps. As Hitler consolidated his power, Berlin was scheduled to host the 1936 Olympics. Hitler worked to hide temporarily the harsh civil rights violations of his regime and worked to make the Olympics sort of a showcase for the Nazi Germany. They built a new 100,000-seat stadium for track and field events. They built 6 gymnasiums and many smaller arenas. The Berlin Games were the first to be televised, and Hitler attended anticipating the contest to highlight Aryan superiority. Much to Hitler's dismay, however, African-American Jesse Owens won 4 gold medals in the track. Hitler attended the ceremonies, but when Olympic officials insisted that he greet all medal winners, Hitler opted to greet none. Hitler continued to build up his army, surpassing the limits in the Treaty of Versailles. It was first done secretly, training soldiers with spades rather than rifles. But soon Hitler was more bold, hosting a huge rearmament rally. By 1935, Hitler had reintroduced conscription and begun to pump huge sums of money into the armed services, including an air force and shipping tonnage that were way past those allowed in the Treaty of Versailles. Part of Hitler's rearmament program was the construction of new submarines or U-boats, again, Untersee boats. At first, Germany concealed them by claiming their work was only on research, but then they were more open about the construction and training of the crews. The victorious allies of War I, Britain and France, at first protested, but facing the Depression, they didn't do much to halt Germany's production or rearmament. Believing that the Treaty of Versailles had been unduly harsh and not wishing to provoke another conflict, the Allies in action became famously known as appeasement. By 1936, the Allies had agreed to allow Germany effective equality in naval construction. But by 1939, Hitler renounced even that. By that point, Hitler had almost 70 U-boats ready for war. With Italy sort of winning in Ethiopia, and obviously Japan had won in Manchuria, Hitler broke another provision of the Treaty of Versailles by actually sending troops into the demilitarized zone of the Rhineland, that section of Germany west of the Rhine River, where the Treaty of Versailles had designated a demilitarized zone. On March 7, 1936, German troops marched into the Rhineland, the first real aggressive move by the Nazi regime. They were greeted by cheering German citizens. Once again, the Allies, preoccupied by the Depression, not wishing to provoke another war, reacted with appeasement. They just gave in with not much more than protest. By 1937, Japan, meanwhile, was now attacking southward into China itself, not just Manchuria. The world watched in horror as Japanese troops massacred thousands of civilians in the city of Nanking. It was known as the Rape of Nanking. Estimates of the casualties were as high as 300,000. After World War II, a war crimes tribunal was held to punish those involved who were still alive. This concludes the section on the advancing in fascists from about 1933 to 1937.